So, for a logistics company or a cargo owner who is not a shipping specialist, what are the most common moments where they realize that now it's too late?
First thing is make sure you have read your contract. Make sure your insurance that you're taking is very specific to the business that you are doing. Understand what all is covered in that, and there are certain do's and don'ts in insurance that you need to understand.
Now, India also just rewrote its core maritime legislation with the Merchant Shipping Act 2025. For a logistics company, a cargo insurer, or a ship owner operating in Indian waters, what changes in the practical, legal, and commercial environment?
What has happened is a very structured way now things have come into play. Because before there were a lot of very distributed places where various rules and requirements were given. But now all that has been cosmetically structured and brought into in line with one place.
A very warm welcome to Maritime Dialogues, Gujarati Empire's global maritime podcast, where people from the industry talk about evolution, victories, challenges, current trends, developments, how technology has evolved, how technology will probably affect the industry, legal aspects, tips for newcomers, beginners, and a lot more. I'm your host, Manasi Paranspe, and our guest today is Captain Virendra Mishra, MD and CEO at the Shipping Tribune, also a producer, director, and a singer by passion. So, you have done something very few people in any industry have managed. You have been the operator, the manager, the legal mind, and the consultant, all in the same career. Seafarer to DPA, to lawyer, to advisory work with EY and KPMG. Now, when you look back at the arc, was it a plan or did each chapter force the next one open? What was it?
First of all, it was all God's grace and certainly a lot of blessings from my loved ones and my mentors. And I would say that it started a long time back when I was in school, where I would be interested in many activities. Along with being a good enough student also. So the habit of being in various places and trying to learn, trying to excel in whatever I try to do, but missing out on some of them, though I would say, was the key where which I followed up in my career also. So I often believe that whatever you are as a child, the way you are groomed and way you are brought up, it really does not shift too much as you grow old. The only thing is the dimensions, the nature of work and things like that change. So for example, in the school, I was in dramatics, I was in elocution, I was in athletics, I was in cricket, I was football. I was studying something sometimes also, though. And I was way back in 1984-85, one of the TV shows used to come, Alpha Plus. I represented my school that time when I was in the 8th standard or something like that, 9th standard. So what happened is that progression of being there in whatever field you can be and try to learn and try to grow was always there. So I did become a seafarer and I did complete my exams rather in a swift pace, I would say, compared to lot many others. And as soon as I was taking one step, the next step was there in the shipping career. That is very common. But as soon as I was ready to become a captain, a master of a ship, I always knew that there is much more in life than to just steer a ship and make sure that people are safe and the ship is safe and the cargo is safe. And from that time only, I was looking at an opportunity that what I would do next. And that's when I thought of joining a ship management company. And one thing more which would be a surprise thing for you is that, these days they have got this certificate which allows you an equivalent BSc Nautical Science with your second mates, equivalent. Or
I have heard. Yeah, I have heard.
Yeah. And the new generation students are actually doing BSc and getting a BSc degree and all that. But in my time, I was a +2 pass. And sometime in 2000, I decided to do BSc also by distance learning by BITS Pilani. And I am fortunate to be one of the 25 students, because after that they stopped that program because not many people were getting into it. And even that time I decided that I need to be a graduate to do something more in life. And that is why I completed a proper BSc Nautical Science by correspondence with BITS Pilani. And then I became a DPA, of course. Then one more strategic decision which I took, I think, was I did not join a very big company in the initial stages. And the reason for that was simple, was that in bigger companies, in the larger companies, you are given a very specific job and you are expected to follow it. And it's not very easy for you to jump into departments up and down here and there to do many things. But I joined a company which was almost nothing at the time when I joined, in ship management at least. And I started working in that company, and it continued for a few years. And during that time, there were not many people to support me, no seniors to support me. So I had to take care of the juniors, teach them, train them, and get our work done. So that system of my school, where I was getting into everything, again followed here. So then I was training my, yeah, so then I was training my ship staff, I was training my office staff, I was going on ships, I was meeting owners, I was visiting various seminars, I was trying to become a speaker here and there wherever I could, so that people will know me and my company. I was looking out for business development and finding new areas to work and things like that. So it was a self-imposed rule on me that I have to be everywhere. And
Okay. But are there any more surprises that we can expect from you?
you may, let's not break the, otherwise you'll not enjoy the movie. You have to wait for the end. Something like that.
Yes, maybe in our next season when we talk again about it.
Possibly
we can
you will have
explore.
somebody new out here to talk to at that time. So that is how I started doing. And something very ship management was a very normal thing that I started doing, of course, which many people did. But again, sometime in 2014, I moved drastically across my career into ship recycling. So
Yes.
so I became the first consultant in India to help the first 14 yards to get their ship recycling certification. And for a long time, people did not even know what it was all about.
Yes. We will dive
Yeah.
deeper into that, of
So
course.
that helped
But
me again to travel various places, because I was called in various places to speak about it, because I was one of the few people who knew what ALANG was doing. So as you see, while I was doing all this, I did not have much work to do. I was a very free man, and I had plenty of time in my life. So at that point of time, sometime in 2015, I decided that I was very well not, I was very uneducated for the future. So then I thought I should study something and make myself a bit more educated than just being a graduate. And that's the time I started studying law. I got enrolled in a college in a Mumbai university, and by 2018, I managed to complete in within 3 years. Of course, that is what is stipulated time. I did my law, and I became a lawyer also. And once I became a lawyer, then I quit my job also, and I started my own consulting and legal firm. And that's what now, just about on the 4th April, I'll be completing 8 years into this journey also. So I'm just thinking maybe a year or two, I'll have to plan a new self of my new version of me in a year or two
yes,
also.
yes, I guessed so. I guessed so. And very rarely have I seen or have I met a person who has said that I had plenty of time in my hands, so I thought of doing something
Trust
new.
me, that is,
Most people around us are talking about, complaining about having no time in life to do what they like, what they love doing, no time for their hobbies, their passion, or anything new that they are trying to do.
I have had all the time in my life to do various things. Even when I was working in a company where I was managing about 20-25 ships, about 10 sites, and visiting and this and that, I still have enough time to party. I had still had enough time to train people. I had to go out for a holiday. So most probably that's why the companies did not like me, because I may not have been giving 100%. I might be enjoying much more than I am usually others do. So, and that is why most probably nobody offered me a job after I quit my job.
I don't think so. I think that's the right example of work-life balance. We just talk about it, but you were actually doing that. But from this conversation, I gather that here is what makes your perspective genuinely rare in a boardroom conversation. You have actually been on the ship where things go wrong, and you have also been in the room when the legal and insurance fallout is being managed. Most lawyers have never sailed, most captains have never seen a courtroom. So, what does each side consistently get wrong about the other, according to you?
There are three steps here. You have missed out the one in between is the operators. So there are captains, there are operators, and then there are lawyers. Okay, because when I was a DPA myself, I was managing all these problems of the ship, and I rarely used to go to a lawyer to ask anything from them. So let's go backwards from here. Now, today, when I am approached by people, I'm approached as a legal consultant, a lawyer, things like that. So they tell me this has happened. Now, because I have the experience of an operator and as a master, I tell them the whole story backwards first. So they tell me this problem happened. I said, okay, now this is where all you must have gone wrong. Now let's go back from the start and let's see if you have actually done these things incorrectly or correctly. So it becomes very easy for the people around me who are talking to me to visualize the whole thing, what would have happened in order to reach to a situation where a problem has reached to. So then it is very easy for us to find out that this is where we went wrong, or this is where we had to correct ourselves, or this is where we have to find ways and means to protect ourselves also. So as a master, very senior people, there are very good masters who really dwell a lot into all these situations, and they understand a lot of things also with their experience. However, a master is often very prompt in their action in whatever they have to do. So it's not only their knowledge, but their practice which helps them to get into the whole thing. They could be masters who have sailed in very good companies where they never faced any problems, and the knowledge itself may not just help them. And then there will be masters who would be sailing on ships with a lot of trouble and all, and they have been fighting day in and out. So it becomes a practice for them to respond to the situation and not react to the situation. However, having said all that, till the time these masters would not have had a chance to sit ashore for some time or be in a part of any inquiry or be in a part of something, they would never be able to understand that how people ashore look at everything. Because it's only the people ashore finally who judge you and not the vice versa. Now, similarly for a lawyer, they forget the fact that that master had a very few minutes, very few seconds most probably to take a decision. And there are a lot of other things around that person which have caused that person to take that decision also. Now, this concept of not understanding is very blindly, because lawyers would say, we rely on the documents that you have given, we rely on the facts you have informed, we rely on the records that we get. So if it is written in the record, it is meaningful for me. If it is not there, then it does not mean anything to me. Now, this is the big difference between one position as a captain, where you are trying to salvage whatever you can at that moment to the best interest of the safety of life, the environment, the property, the reputation and all. And you just need to believe your instincts that you know it, that this is the right thing to do. And of course, in modern days time, you get a lot of support from ashore also to a master. So if that person has enough time, then they can of course consult and they can take further help from the shore people and try to do things right. They can get the various resources, the experts to talk to them or things like that. But only in some situations it's a more respond immediately kind of thing. Most of the situations you have enough time to respond. So now the masters are being molded into a way where they would match up to what the lawyers or the courtrooms or the board of directors people would like to hear, rather than just the seafarer way of going about things. So I think that's a good change which is happening. And a lot of companies I know, they also have these courses on insurance, P&I, investigations and this and that, which helps these masters and the other seafarers to understand and improve their ways of working on a ship also. So that is how what I would say would be the key between the two.
So now let's talk about where commercial and logistics companies actually bleed money in shipping. And I do not mean freight rates. From your work advising companies and handling P&I claims, where are the contracts being signed that should never be signed? And where are the clauses that look standard but are actually landmines?
Most of the time, people are not reading contracts, first of all. And especially in India, I would say. Abroad, they are much more careful and they have got a lot of team. In India, we make a scarcity of resources in our offices. And we try to ensure that within the few people who are there, we are trying to do everything. And neither we want an outside help to save the cost, because the competition is so good that your margins are very low, so you are trying to save everything. There is a saying that the contracts which cause a bigger problem are not the ones which are negotiated, but they are the ones which are believed to be normal. Okay, so what it means is that even if you read certain important paragraphs of your contract and discuss it with the client and give yourself time to negotiate those things, you are still in a better position than to just say that it was a normal contract and everything is included in that, so we'll be relying on that. Okay, so the most important thing is not reading the contract itself. Then after that comes to the point is things like where your claims will get stuck, what would be your liabilities, then what would be certain reporting points, what would be certain information that needs to be recorded. These are the simple things in life which people miss out while going through a contract. So I'm not going to talk of big things where something just goes and smashes itself and breaks. You can do nothing about it. But we are talking about these small things in life where the information is not recorded or not conveyed, and that is where it balloons into a bigger loss. Okay, then more importantly, the insurance aspect of it. People need to understand what insurance you are taking. I know of a shipping company who took an insurance of their crew rather than some $40,000 as their death compensation. They took it only $3,000 because the premium was less. And unfortunately, that ship got stranded and few people got killed. And rather died, not killed, died. And when the compensation came to pay, they had to pay through their own pockets. You're getting the point? So that time when the insurance was being taken, they never realized the fact that what liability they are going to take by paying a lesser premium out here. So these are small things only. Big things don't matter much, frankly telling you. It is the small things only which hurt you much more. That is how it is. So these are the things, few things which I can tell you when people have to be careful about when they are dealing and they are reading contracts and going ahead with them.
Sir, apart from this, now that we are talking about insurance and claims, you have handled insurance and P&L claims extensively. So for a logistics company or a cargo owner who is not a shipping specialist, what are the most common moments where they realize that now it's too late, that they were not actually protected the way they thought they were? Apart from this example that you just talked about, is there anything else?
Yes. To begin with, again, the first thing is make sure you have read your contract. Make sure your insurance that you're taking is very specific to the business that you are doing, understand what all is covered in that. Then more importantly, there are certain warranties and there are certain do's and don'ts in insurance that you need to understand, because ultimately when the claim comes, you're not looking at paying from your own pocket. You are looking at going back to the insurance company and saying this has happened, so I am insured for it. Then the question should not be am I insured for it or not. The question should be I am insured for it, so please help me to get my claim. But that is where people miss out on things, and they do not even look at the standard clauses also, and they don't understand that what would be the repercussion of these things as and when things happen. Lot of the time people tell me that, sir, we discussed on the WhatsApp and we did this cargo, and then after that we just sent a line that okay, as per the previous this and previous that, we will go ahead. And it was only the bottom line was the dollars, the money that was coming out of the freight, but other things were kept aside. I know one example of a company which was doing batteries, the phone batteries. They were moving it from one place to another in trucks. When I was in their office, I just asked them that you are moving this, are you aware what is this cargo also and what can happen with this? They said, yes, sir, but the freight is so less and we cannot do this, we cannot do that, we cannot do that. I said, but what is your liability after if something happens on this? And I don't know what happened. After 2 or 3 consignments, one of the consignments caught fire. So whatever they would have earned in all these 3-4, all went off in one consignment. So it is all about how lucky, what they say, how lucky your luck is.
Yeah. But is it because of the lack of awareness, or that people are aware but they are just taking it casually?
They are aware but they are taking it casually. Because again, spending that small amount of money to get it vetted, get it risk assessed, to discuss it, that causes them to think that they might make a bigger profit if they don't do it. And then they have examples of people around them who are doing it already. And then that gives them more courage that if that other person can do it, why can't I do it? So apart from certain big firms, I would say, we have dedicated people working around, the others, even if it is a bigger consignment also, they still don't take care. Okay, let's say it's a small consignment, they don't worry too much about it. But at least for the bigger consignment, they should make sure that all the process is followed to avoid a bigger loss. That is what I suggest to the companies.
Now let's talk about the compliance frameworks. ISM, ISPS, MLC, ISO that shipping runs on, all these frameworks. You have audited companies against all of them. For a commercial or logistics organization that interfaces with shipping but does not live inside it, how much of this compliance world do they actually need to understand, and where does ignorance become a liability?
ISM, ISPS, MLC is very specific to a ship management company and a ship ownership company. A person who is into logistics may not need to understand these things, but just be aware that there is certain certification which this vessel should have. We can have no correlation between the two. So ISM is basically a structured ISO quality management system specifically for shipping. Okay. By the way, when I was doing my BSc from BITS Pilani, I had to do a dissertation before my exams, and the topic which I choose was ISM, which is what we are talking about. That ISM is just a combination of ISO 9000, 14000 and 45000. So this is what my topic of discussion was there for my dissertation. So when that is the time when you realize that it is nothing but a specialized ISO system which the shipping companies have made for themselves. ISPS, of course, it came out for a very different reason, and it is about ensuring access control and making sure the security of the vessel is there, right? And of course, Maritime Labour Convention, which has come off very recently after a very long struggle, is about ensuring the benefits of life at sea are also passed on to the seafarers, and their protection and their ways or means of making sure that their life at sea is much better than what it is the part of it. So the logistic companies will not really be really bothered about how it is. But having said that, knowing the record of the company of the ship that they are chartering or they are getting into would be a good thing, because it is because of these reasons the port state control would come, detain a ship, delay the ship, and the cargo is getting delayed. So then all those things are there. So knowing about them is a good thing for a logistic company.
Right, right. But again, the same question. Is every company aware of this? Do they have all these certifications? What is the status right now?
A shipping company would certainly have all these certifications, because otherwise they cannot run their ships. Because these certificates are need to be sent to the port control. They need to check it before you come inside and things like that. Or you can have a port state control person coming on ship. So a shipping company will have it. Now, having the certificate and implementing these are two different things again. Okay, so they will have certificate, but it will depend on the port state control or somebody else to come up and say that you are complying with it or not complying, or what their record says in that. For a logistic company, they can only be bothered about the fact that if the certificate is valid or not. They will not be able to get more into it. So that is how it is. So they are certainly aware about it. And one of the requirements is there when you get into chartering a ship or doing something such big, to take the whole ship as for your chartering purpose or things like that, then you do take care of all these things also. There are times when some chartering companies have sent me on board the vessel to audit the vessel also, to make sure that the vessels are run in a proper manner also. So, but then again, those are very big companies. I have not seen smaller companies doing that.
Okay. Sir, you advise on crisis media management as well, which is not something that most maritime consultants offer usually. So when a logistics company or ship owner has an incident that hits the press, what are the mistakes that turn a manageable situation into a reputational disaster, and who in the organization is usually making those mistakes?
As a DPA, I was the head of ISM, the custodian of ISM. So if any, God forbid, incident or accident happens, then I need to respond to it, to the class, to the flag, to the everybody. So of course, I was unfortunate to have one of the ships sunk also when I was a DPA, and that had got me into a very big inquiry with Panama, India, and all the other things. And of course, we used to keep having some or other small incidents here and there, some injuries and this and that, which allowed me to understand the whole thing. So as a consultant, I knew what happens in such situations. So as you asked me, what happens during these times which can cause a problem? So the biggest problem is when you are either silent, or you talk too much, or you talk what you don't know. That is gossip. Now, these are the three things which you need to control at all times, which means you need to give a statement. You cannot say, I don't know. You cannot say, I will not tell. You need to give a statement, but that statement should be true to the facts which are there with you, and nothing more or nothing less. You did not give that further information which is not asked to you. You don't yourself give information to begin with. Let the others ask you that information. And most importantly, make sure that your juniors, your other team members, are not talking to anybody else and trying to feed them with whatever other information is there. Lots. In today's time, let's say you are working in a company and something happens, God forbid, through something happens or something happens. Suddenly you will get a call that, okay, Miss Mansi, you are from this company. We heard that something like that. We would like you to be on the camera. And the fact that you will be on the camera itself a very big thing for a lot of people. Whenever I start training for crisis media management, very quickly I will ask you that same question. So assume that you are on a ship, okay, and you see a fire. What do you think will be the first action?
There will be panic, but of course the trained people will go for a solution. They'll know what to do.
The first thing would be you will be taking a selfie that you are on a ship, which is. Am I right or wrong? Tell me.
Selfie,
Okay,
or
you
maybe a video that will go
a video
viral
or
on
something
social
like that,
media.
which you can put it on your social media. Okay, so I got you there. So this is what you need to be careful about also, and you have to make sure that at least your people whom you control are aware. They would not give out any information. They would not unnecessarily babble. They would not unnecessarily say unnecessarily things which do not matter to the whole episode. So that is how a crisis media training, maybe a one-day training only, something for a group of people would be good enough to keep them aware that God forbid something happens, we should not do this.
Right. But are these trainings given now that there is awareness about it? In your experience, what is the scenario?
Again, there are certain companies, some companies only, who have got enough people, 25, 30 people, who plan to, who give these trainings. But most of the other smaller companies are not into such kind of things, because they are just trying to make sure that they run their business somehow, rather than think of all these things at this moment. That's how I can say. Yeah.
And so, just like any other industry, there are a lot of aspects that even the industry should be aware of. People should be aware of. And one thing that I recently got to know is about the ALANG. We were just talking about it, ship recycling. So ALANG processes nearly a third of global ship recycling, and you have been consulting there for over a decade now, and have done monitoring work for MSC. For a commercial shipping company or asset owner thinking about end-of-life decisions for their vessels, what does responsible ship recycling actually cost them in terms of compliance, liability, and time? Because I suspect the real number is going to be surprising for people here.
Anything that you do, anything that waste material is connected with, today is being seen in much awe, and you have to be very careful how you go about it. If you don't do it properly, the liabilities can be very high, especially for shipping. See, every day there are so many cars getting into rainwater and all, and a lot of oil and grease seen on the roads. Nobody talks about it. But a ship, God forbid, it has got an incident or an operational issue where some barrels of oil also falls into the sea, and there is such a big hue and cry about it. So as a shipping company, you have to be very careful about all these waste management and how you dispose of the property that has helped you on for such a long time. There are a lot of people who have asked me that once a ship is sold, the ship owner himself is not recycling the ship. They are selling it to somebody, the cash buyer or the yard or somebody they are selling, and that person is responsible to do it. So why does the ship owner get involved in the ship recycling? Now it is something same like saying that you clean your house and throw the garbage outside your house and say that it's not my responsibility anymore. Now in the shareholders, the government and everybody, they say no, we are going to be responsible because someday that garbage is going to reach our shore also. So from today we need to take care of that and ensure that whatever garbage or whatever waste or whatever is coming out is to be controlled and made sure that it is processed in a manner which is in line with the requirements. And Hong Kong Convention has just come into play just about a year back, and after such a long time it has come into play, of course. But the better part of the story is, at least I can talk about ALANG because I've not visited other places. ALANG has changed drastically and ensured that it complies with all those regulations even without HKC coming. In fact, I was talking to the DG shipping and all some time back, on about ship recycling and all, and they were asking what we should do and all, what I should do. I said, I don't think so. You have any role to play anymore out there to improve that place, because the people out there themselves, the yard owners and the cash buyers, they have invested enough money out there to make sure that things would be in a much better state than the Hong Kong Convention also, because they are eyeing a higher standard of EU also now. And not only that, companies like MSC, whom I have represented for ship recycling monitoring, they require their own standards and their own auditing to be done with a much higher scale again than more than HKC. So already those places in ALANG are, as at least the yards which I have been and most of the yards which I know, are much better than what you can expect. Having said all this, there is a very good joke in ALANG that we call these yards green ship recycling. Correct? You have heard about this term, green ship recycling?
I have heard about the term green recycling. So it's the same thing
So
applies
green.
to.
Now the next question will be, how many shades of green do you know?
Well,
Okay.
one of them I'm wearing.
Well, okay, you are wearing one of the. No, you are wearing a very light olive color, if I'm not mistaken, green, not a very dark green. So you are not in the best of the category as per me for ALANG. So the dark green. Okay, so that's how it is. So again, the various shades of green are there, but a certain level has been already reached, I would say. A certain standard has been set by ALANG for most of the yards. Again, I'm again saying most, again saying, because we cannot talk about each yard. Most of the yards have set a minimum standard for themselves. Now, that is the minimum green which is they are on, and some are high and some are slightly near that. That's all what is happening in ALANG today. But people have become very responsible, at least in ALANG. At least that is what the yards which I have visited and the yards I am interacting with, I can tell you about that.
So you mentioned that now, like it is compulsory. It has to be in place. Everybody has to make sure that they are implementing.
See, now that HKC has come into force, they are forced to do it now. So now they don't have a choice. So the same thing what I told you about ISM, ISPS, MLC. You have to now follow HKC if you have to come to ALANG or Turkey or China, Bangladesh or Pakistan or one of these major countries where I would say China does not do it. Okay. So all these countries have already implemented HKC. So now, irrespective of the fact that what your country does, we don't know. But if you have to come to my country, you need to follow these principles of HKC on your ship and as a regulator and as a commercial operator or whatever you are. So now this question was relevant about 1 year back when HKC had not come into play, where you would say that who are the people who are taking that step ahead even before time and being proactive. But now it is no more about being proactive. So the minimum standard you need to follow is HKC, and then after that you can have your own standards, which you impose onto the yard and say that if you want my ship to be recycled in your yard, you need to follow these further actions or safety protocols or waste management protocols in order to take my ship in your yard. So that's how it is today.
Now, India also just rewrote its core maritime legislation with the Merchant Shipping Act 2025. For a logistics company, a cargo insurer, or a ship owner operating in Indian waters, what changes in the practical, legal, and commercial environment? What should their legal teams actually be updating right now?
If I can say, the MS Act, which is new 2025, is coming, and it has already come from 15th March 2026. It has already been put in place. I don't think there is a very big difference what has happened in the rules which have to be implemented and all that. But what has happened is a very structured way now things have come into play. Because before there were a lot of places, very distributed places where various rules and requirements were given. But now all that has been cosmetically structured and brought into in line with one place. And of course, there are some minor changes which have come into play. Most importantly, there could be also, of course, the presently the laws, the requirements are still being drafted. They are still not come into play. Still, the old laws and all requirements are still being followed. But over a period of time, there will be new forms, new procedural requirements. I think that would be a much greater change than the actual law itself. But yes, there will be small tweaks here and there. For example, there is something called bareboat charter, demise charter, what you call, is where you take a vessel on lease and you, at the end of the day, you buy it off also. So that has been included in the Merchant Shipping Act as a major thing, which can be a vessel can be chartered in India and things like that. Now, those are the fine prints which will have to be taken out once the whole thing comes out. But I don't expect a major change in any company's way of working or things like that, which we can expect. But certain forms and documents, yes, that would change only.
So there is no, they don't have to really update anything.
As I told you, there could be some minor things here and there that would have to be updated. Because the whole idea of this Merchant Shipping Act is to make sure that the whole cluster of the documents and the circulars and all everything comes together in one place. That is the main thing which is done. Because everything was already there, but it was on various different platforms. It has all come together. That's how it is. And if there are any major changes, I'm sure DG Shipping will inform that these are the major changes that are happening and you need to inculcate them.
Okay, cool. So, sir, now you have worked as an independent expert with EY and KPMG on maritime matters. When a big consulting firm brings in someone like you, what is the problem that they are usually trying to solve? And what do they find when they actually get under the hood of a shipping or logistics operation?
The most important thing what these consulting firms are getting out from people like us, what are called subject matter expertise, the experience that they have of actually handling the situation. Because most of these firms have a lot of good people who have very good MBAs and from such backgrounds and all, but they may not have had the hands-on experience on what they have to do.
Yeah, right.
So, and of course, one other thing which often helps them is the contacts, the people whom we know in the industry to reach out to. For example, recently, if I am getting into certain topic, I know the exact people to talk to. For example, if it is chartering, I know Ashutosh, I can reach out to him and talk to him. But that they may not be able to do. And Ashutosh may not be very open to talk to people whom he does not know from the industry. So, though the most important, the experience, and the second, the contacts of that particular work. These are the two most important things that they want, because everything else is available on documents, on books and laws books. They can always read it and come back to you. But the experience and the contact, people like us have, and that's why they have it. They expect from us. And of course, when they are getting stuck into some technical terms, when they are getting stuck into something which they, how to write it for a seafarer or for a shipping company, that is when we tell them and guide them also how to go about it in the language and the structured way that the final client, final person who is going to read it would understand it the best also.
All right. Now, last question, and I would like a direct answer. For a CFO or a commercial director of a logistics company who is listening to this podcast and thinks that maritime legal and compliance risk, it's someone else's department, what is the one scenario that will make them realize very quickly that it is actually their problem?
A CFO, a finance person, is the most important person for me in a company. And if that person can inform his other colleagues and all that learn when to cut your finger rather than your hand, would be a very important lesson that a CFO can give to others. So as soon as any problems are coming and any situation is arising, you need to act quickly and ensure that your losses are reduced rather than delay it in order to create a big havoc for the whole company.
Yeah.
So that principle is something which a CFO would pass, and a CFO should be very much concerned if they don't hear problems. It is not possible that with the amount of things happening in the world, the various situations and various issues happening, if a company is not going through a problem, there is something wrong. Because nobody has made a risk assessment for so many things which are happening today. And we all are evolving, we are all learning how to cope up with so many things and so many dimensions changing. So, irrespective of the fact that a company is very structured, very risk oriented, still there has to be something which is new happening today in the world which we need to cope up with. And that's what, if the CFO does not hear something like that, he should be worried, or he or she should be worried.
All right, now let's move on to the rapid fire. We have, of course, discussed everything in detail, but quick rapid fire will also be helpful for our audience. Sea or shore?
For a person like me, if it was not sea, I could not have come ashore. So for me, so I don't know how relevant that is, but if given a choice, I would be ashore.
Okay. Law or navigation?
Law, certainly.
One word for maritime law.
Very important for every seafarer to know his rights and duties.
Okay. Most misunderstood legal issue in shipping?
The general average principles.
Okay. ALANG, opportunity or challenge?
I always told you, opportunity, a big opportunity.
Compliance, burden or necessity?
That's a simple one, a necessity.
One advice to young seafarers.
Make sure you do your time at sea, gain the experience, go up the ladder as you can, but the vastness of the sea is not the end for you to explore. Come out when you have sufficient experience, because there is much more ashore than at sea.
Amazing, very rightly put.
Well, just once upon a time I was a poet also. So I keep finding these opportunities to make small couplets and all whenever I can, as soon as I can.
So what do you need? Any kind of, like, are there any rules? You need peace, you need your space, you need no noise around?
I'm a very adaptable person. I just make the best of whatever comes to me.
How about one quick two-liner poetry right now?
Right now, maybe I'll try it in Hindi and I'll just randomly say
Sure.
it. है ना?
Yeah.
I randomly say it. ये जिंदगी का सफर है, ये जिंदगी का सफर है जो दरिया पे ना बिताएं, ये जिंदगी का सफर है जो दरिया पे ना बिताएं, अगर हो सके तो थोड़ा थम के किनारे पे आएं, उम्मीदें 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 सारी पैसों से नहीं बनती, जिंदगी का मजा लेना है तो अपनों के साथ रह के बिताएं.
Wow, too good.
Thank you so much.
So you must have written a lot when you were
I used to write sufficient, not much, but yes, I used to write. Here and there I used to write. Like that. Not a very, because, what happens is that often you need to be careful that your language and all you have to have a good command on that language and all that. So because of all that, and while doing all this work and studying and making your career and all that, you need to give some things a backseat sometimes. So maybe at some point of time I gave that a backseat. That's all.
looking
Right.
forward to your book launch.
Well, somebody has asked me to do it, but I am not in a favor of that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was my pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you so much.